debate about former President FW de Klerk's presence at the State of the Nation address is not dying down. This after he stated that apartheid was not a crime against humanity. Well, the EFF disrupted proceedings, you'll recall, and it wanted the former National Party leader removed. Now, former head of state Thabo Mbeki says de Klerk genuinely wasn't aware of the United Nations Declaration on Apartheid. Well, Parliament's Deputy Speaker Lechesa Tsenodi joins us now to explain why de Klerk was invited in the first place. Deputy Speaker, good morning to you. May I just interrupt you on your phone there and ask you this question. Do you take as genuine that the former President FW de Klerk was not aware that apartheid was declared a crime against humanity?
No, I don't think it's my place to get into that debate, Ntati, because as Parliament we do not get into the debates about what people's views are on matters during this period. Our job is to invite, as we have done in the past, former presidents, and this is what we've done. So, in a sense, we are exercising the responsibility to inform people. Essentially what this is, let me express my view, strong view about this. It's a deflection. The critical point is that President de Klerk, like President Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma, in this instance, as well as Madiba when he lived, and President Mutante are on the list of people who continually are invited. That's the simple reason. The story of what de Klerk says now is a matter that, of course, we do not give diplomatic immunity to those we invite. If they say wrong things or whatever things they say, for us, it's not in the interest of Parliament, for example, Mr. Speaker, in inviting those we have invited to then change our mind.
Deputy Speaker, I accept.
He was invited on.
I accept that Parliament.
Hello.
I hope you can still hear me. I'm saying, Deputy Speaker, that I accept that Parliament isn't a platform for what you say is now a deflection of what really occurred there. But you are a member of the African National Congress. It's come out guns blazing this weekend saying that he's actually insulting the forgiving spirit of the people of this country. Surely you've got to take some of that into heart.
I do have a take, and but the problem is if you are going to mix my opinion about his views with what Parliament did, it creates a problem. Because now I don't know, I must speak to you as a Deputy Speaker or as an ANC member or as a Communist Party member. These are things about which we must navigate always properly so that when we invite people, they understand that what is the basis on which we invite them.
On what grounds, therefore, has Mr. de Klerk been invited to Parliament time and time again?
On the grounds on which we invited President Thabo Mbeki and the other presidents before him. He was part of the presidency, and so that's the basis on which he's invited.
The ANC this morning telling us that it's quite possible that they might motivate that he be stripped of the title of former president.
That's a matter that must be placed before the Rules Committee to decide when it arises. But for now, that status, as long as it remains, we can't discriminate on who was president, deputy president, and therefore what they've done is no longer appropriate for them to be invited.
Let me ask you this straightforward question then, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you this straightforward question. Now that we are all aware as a country of where the former president stands in as far as his views on apartheid are concerned, is it still prudent for Parliament to continue to invite him to that to the National Assembly?
My view is that let's debate that. Let's have a debate. We will have that debate so that we express our views about the consequences of taking that route. What are the broader implications for that? There are people who have done things that are completely out of order and that are irresponsible and that carry statuses of this or that organization and so on. So we must exercise a careful considerations of the criteria we would use to exclude him or to exclude any other person in future. This is the same thing that happened with when we sought, when Parliament was confronted with the responsibility to consider a request to dismiss, to consider removing the public protector. We did not have rules, so we had to create the rules to do that. In my view, I think it is appropriate for us to exercise that kind of careful consideration of a criteria we will set to determine who we invite and on what basis do we invite them in future if we discard the current criteria we are using and so on. And the reason I'm doing this, I'm avoiding getting into the mud of the politics of that de Klerk is expressing, for which he is being condemned by various political parties, is because there must always be an important basis on which we speak on these matters as presiding officers. In the House, for example, can I just make this point?
Yes.
In the House, it is important that members exercise, they were warned not to disrupt the place. They disrupted it, defying presiding officers. Now we are settled with a diversion by themselves and de Klerk and what de Klerk said. This
Deputy
is all
Speaker,
I'm pointing out.
Just as a final question to you, and very briefly, please.
Yes,
Yesterday, we saw a statement coming from a representative from the Public Protector's Office in the Free State. They've written to you yet more complaints against the Public Protector. How much longer until we see the commencement of the inquiry into a fitness for office?
We released a statement in which an indication was made that the Speaker has received 25 or 27 names, and so she's got time now, probably up to the end of the month, to consider those names and select 3 out of those 27 or 25 people. The initial panel that will look into the evidence that exists to determine whether there is a prima facie case to be heard, and if so, the process will go ahead as the rules indicate.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly.